was optimistic in September, but by October I was out of the loft. And I remember a wise man once told me that all hope can never be lost, 'cause a blind squirrel finds its own acorn every once in a little while. So you gotta keep smiling. It's the Brosuv Fantasy Podcast tonight. Brosuv Fantasy, yeah, you know it's gonna be alright. It's the Brosuv Fantasy Podcast tonight.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the inaugural Brosuv Fantasy Football League podcast. It has been years in the making. I am not making that up. We've been talking about this for years, wanting to do it, and today's the day. Now, I want to just say I'm thrilled to be here. This is the first of many BFFL podcasts, and just want to say to everyone out there, this is a free-flowing adult conversation. Some sensitive themes may be touched on, and viewer discretion is advised. And I'd be remiss if I did not mention today's sponsor, Boris's Bottles. Now, we're living in crazy times. We all know it. No one wants to leave the house. Delivery is everything right now. Boris's Bottles, you can order your drink of choice in a special decorative bottle delivered each week to you, whether you prefer yerba mate, kombucha, a fresh squeezed haze bomb. Boris's Bottles is your go-to. Stay at home and let Boris deliver your favorite libations to your front door. And for a limited time, of course, if you go to boris'sbottles.com and enter the promo code BFFL, you'll receive $10 off of your order and free shipping. So thanks, Boris. We'll be enjoying you all week. Absolutely. I'd like to welcome my co-hosts for the BFFL podcast. We have Ryan Ghilani. Welcome, Ryan.
Connor, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. This has been years in the making, like you said. And maybe after, 2 hours worth of technical difficulties a week ago and today, maybe we're going to get this one done. So let's do it.
Let's do it. Ryan Hartz, welcome.
Yeah, let's hope this one takes. Yeah, thanks for having us. Look forward to, continuing this BFFL podcast.
What else is there to say, really? I mean, we'll talk a little bit later about the schedule, but like I said, first of many BFFL podcasts. We're going to be getting together, and it's not just going to be the three of us. Everyone's going to get a chance to come on, I hope. We haven't really figured out exactly, for some it might be a pleasure to be on, others it might be a punishment, so we'll have to figure that out. But let's just get right into it. And, the first one of these we've done, we obviously hadn't had a chance to talk about last season. Of course, we have last season's champion with us this evening, Ryan Hartz. Some would say a different season, a bizarre season, hard to summarize. Ryan Hartz, why don't you start us off? What do you have to say about the 2019 season? How would you characterize that season?
Certainly an interesting season. So, it started off with one of our commissioners acting like he wasn't going to be there, acting like he was going to leave us. Not mentioning any names. I'm not really sure where he is on my screen, but it's one of these guys. Anyway, so we're there. We're getting ready to draft, and all of a sudden, boom, pops out from a closet, hiding for a few hours. If that doesn't sum up just how crazy and hectic that season was, I don't know.
Well said. Well said. Ghilani, what do you have to say?
Yeah, it was a ridiculous season. Just to comment on what you mentioned there earlier, there was never a doubt that I wasn't going to play. You guys are just easy marks. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I had a great time doing that. But no, last season was nuts. I think that there were 3 teams that were 8-5 for the top record, and then 4 that were 7-6. Just ridiculous. I'm not sure we really ever had a season that was that close together before. So yeah, it was crazy. Like every other season though, a blind squirrel did end up winning. So aptly named.
Well, some would say that this past year, more than most, a truly blind squirrel found the acorn, of course, because when you look at Ryan's team, it was a bunch of guys who came out of nowhere. Let's be honest.
A lot of season stuff.
A bunch of guys that honestly just found it at the right time. You look at Devontae Parker. I mean, you have Jameis Winston throwing just as many interceptions as touchdowns, but getting it done. You have, Devonta Freeman kind of coming back from the dead. I mean, no one really expected too much from him at a certain point last year. So, just overall, kind of a strange season, especially when you look back. The year before, we had Mahar kind of steamroll. The year before that, Gotti kind of steamrolled. Definitely a different year. And I would say, no offense to you, Ryan Hartz, I would say I never will look at that as one of the great teams to win this league. That's what I'm saying.
It doesn't matter what you think about that team. That's the second
Absolutely.
one. So squirrel couldn't be that blind.
Well, it wasn't the blindest squirrel to ever find its nut. Let's say that. I mean, we have had a team that started off 0-6, make the playoffs at 6-7-1, and end up winning the championship. Of course, that being Ryan Hartz. But I don't think he's done anything since then. So maybe his course, his luck has run its course. But it was among the blindest squirrels, but I wouldn't say that it was the blindest.
Yeah, when it comes to Honhart, can't wait to have him on. Certainly, he's going to have a lot to say to that, statement that his best days are behind him.
A lot of chat behind Honhart.
I think he's going to be one of the guys who's going to appreciate the opportunity to come on here and speak his mind. So, who was the runner-up last year? Was it Hani or was it Gino?
Mahar.
Yeah, Mahar.
Won last year with Saquon Barkley. I had this year and won.
That's right.
Maybe
yeah.
I'll get Barkley.
Did he pass on Saquon in the draft, or did you take him?
I took him first overall.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right, because he was trying to trade up to take him.
I was willing to get rid of him too. I was ready to trade.
Yeah, but your offer was ridiculous. You were trying to get like a first and a third for his first round pick. Oh, come on.
You would have let it go through. Maybe I'm not sitting here with my second championship.
Well, that's why we have level heads running this league. We also made the change to go to 3 commissioners.
You mean you brought on level heads?
Excuse me?
You mean you brought on level heads to be commissioners?
All right.
Good one.
Listen. That's a very interesting point, and I don't know if we planned on getting to this, but this is definitely worth mentioning. Last year, I always kind of forget, but we had a whole bunch of rule changes. Like you said, brought on 2 commissioners to kind of create a coalition of level heads. And honestly, those rule changes, it's impossible to say whether they would have changed the outcome of the league with Ryan winning. But I will say those rule changes, even though I lobbied for them, I would not mind seeing them go by the wayside in 2020.
What rule changes in particular? I'm just curious. So we went to what? We went to 3 wide receivers. I just added
that
another
was the
receiver.
Worst one. Yeah.
We took away.
We got rid of the kickers. We got rid
of kickers, which is great. Great. Fuck kickers. I don't like kickers.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So we got rid of kickers. We added the 3rd wide receiver, and then we did the what was it? 1 point for every 5 receptions.
Oh, I forgot.
And then 3 points for 10 receptions. So it was a pseudo PPR plus
big
the
yardage bonuses.
We had some yardage
100
bonuses.
yards, 200 yards, etc.
So what in particular, Connor? I'm curious. Were you not happy with?
So we'll just start out with lineup construction. I thought 3 wide receiver was going to be great. It turns out there's just really not enough fantasy relevant wide receivers to make that enjoyable. And for me, I would much rather have smaller lineups in which no one has to start, say, Allen Hurns. And you can say, oh, well, draft better, well, free agent better, but I truly believe there's just not enough great wide receivers for fantasy relevant wide receivers for 12 teams to each be starting 3 every week at least. And then when you get to the scoring, call me old fashioned, and this is just personal preference, but I missed the benchmarks that we knew If you score 100 points, you had a great week, 6 for a touchdown. I just kind of missed the old standard, and that's just personal preference, really.
Well, I think the whole point of it was to score more points, right? I think scoring points is fun. So we tried to figure out a way to add scoring, but not, take away from, I guess, the overall strategy. I don't know. What would you'd rather just go back to straight scoring, just standard scoring the way it was? 1 point for every 10 yards.
Yeah.
6
for
a touchdown.
And the one thing I would be interested in is like a 0.5 PPR, but I don't think that'll ever happen in this league. I don't think people are interested in it. So I'm into standard scoring. And as far as lineup, I would definitely want to get rid of a third wide receiver, and I'd be willing to entertain like a super flex situation. But I think I've played in one way for so long that to me that way made sense, and when we went away from it, I ended up missing it.
I like the idea of getting rid of the third wide receiver. I agree with that. I don't think that really worked out. It was a good experiment, but I think you're right. The quality of receiver that you were playing in your third or even your flex was,
because a lot of people have to play a wide receiver in their flex also.
For sure.
Right.
For sure.
So
right.
You're doing 3 wide receivers. You're doing 4. Most of them were doing 4 because people didn't have good running backs.
Right.
You don't have steady running backs, and you're getting crushed if you don't have all the, because you never have that many wide receivers.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was tough. I don't like the half PPR though. I really don't. There's too many like stupid screenplays where you're getting a catch for -3 yards, and I just hate the idea of giving positive points for a negative yardage play. I think my compromise of doing 5 catches for the bonus point, I think, is enough to satisfy the PPR, but also you have to get 5 catches before you're starting to get points. And generally you're not going to get 5 negative yardage catches in a game unless you're Ryan Switzer.
And if you get 5, you could get 5 catches is, it's a hard thing to do game in, game out.
Yeah. You could argue it should be more points, but that's a whole nother beast.
But the bonus points, and it adds a little something, but like that extra wide receiver.
The change that we need to make is obvious, and that's getting rid of team defense. The team defense is absolutely ridiculous. You shouldn't be able to score 40 points or -15 from one position. It shouldn't have an effect that ruins your entire week or season.
But can't we just change the defensive scoring? Like, why do we have to eliminate the defensive position when defense is a big part of football, right?
We could change the scoring, but I haven't seen one suggestion that really makes sense for defensive scoring other than what's there.
Oh, I think you limit it down to, you get points for your safety, your big point thing. So safety, you can maybe throw in sacks, but you eliminate those like points for holding people to certain yardages, and just pop those out just because they're ridiculous things.
The yardages suck. You're right.
That's what swings everything. Because if you have so many yards, then you start going to the negatives, and then it just.
But that's the yardage only accounts for 0 to 10 points, if I'm not mistaken, or -10 to 10. So even if you eliminate that piece of it, you're still talking about a swing of -5 points or -10 points maybe to 30 points, which is still too big of a swing to have at one position.
Points. What drives the negative points then?
Points against.
All right. Well, then I think all you have to do is just eliminate anything that gets you negative. So you bring it down to there's no negatives. I think that's all.
So then you just give positive points only for points against.
Yeah, I've seen leagues that do that. I'm not totally convinced, and that's why I don't think we voted on one last year, because at a certain point then the defenses are just all too good if you're not taking points away for yardage. It's a very delicate balance that we'd have to strike there.
For them to get points, you limit their points to they can score 10 points, 15 points, and you eliminate the zeros, the negatives. Maybe you can make it go a little negative, but because if they're like really bad, right? So if they have like tons and tons and tons and tons of points against and points and yards against, then yeah, give them a little negative, whatever. But you have to make it that it's harder to get to the plateaus that get you points on defense. And there won't be the crazy swings.
I'm interested. I mean, I'll entertain it. I just haven't really seen a good one. I think you have to keep the point swing between, say, 0 and 10, 15 points like a regular position. It's going to be hard to do, but I'm open.
Yeah, and as co-commissioners, I mean, it's part of our job to maintain an open mind, and anything that's brought forth will be looked at with a keen eye. Absolutely. One thing I want to bring up with you guys, this is going to be fun. Been looking forward to asking you this. We have 6 guys who have won the league, 6 who have not. Obviously, we call those who have not won the league the No Squirrel Mafia. And so we kind of have a pretty clear delineation between the haves and the have-nots at this point. Who would you say, and it doesn't have to be a non-champ, but who would you say has the most to prove entering the 2020 season? I think there's quite a few people you could name. Ghilani, why don't we start with you?
I touched on this a little bit earlier. I think the answer is obvious. It's Ryan Hartz, one of the Ryans. But, I mean, he had 3 championships in the first 4 years of the league and then hasn't won since. We've had 5 people win the league since Hartz last did. There's still something to be said about 3 championships, and you can never take that away from him. The next closest person is 2, sitting next to me here, and nobody else has more than 1. But I think the fact that he came on so strong with 3 and 4 years and then hasn't even sniffed it. I mean, he's been closer to the bottom than the top. So was it all a charade? Was it all smoke and mirrors? Does he know what he's talking about?
Right.
I don't know.
Well, one interesting point is I think that when Hani was winning, and I don't want to speak for everyone else, but I know for me, when Hani was winning, and not to take anything away from him, there was a point in my life where I became very, very invested in fantasy football, and maybe in the beginning part of the league, I was not super invested. I mean, I didn't really understand it. I didn't take time to try to learn all the different players. I was just playing, and I think
you
Hani
gift-wrapped him his 3rd championship.
That's revisionist history, and if you go back to the trade, it was a very fair trade that ended up,
Wasn't it like you gave Rob Gronkowski for like a bag of footballs?
We can't go back. No one.
Maybe an old fashioned behind the Kogos.
Prime Saints, Jimmy Graham, it was a fair trade that just went haywire and got remembered in a certain way just because of what happened after it.
He went 6-0-1 after that trade, ran the table, and won the league.
Hani doesn't win the league, though. That trade is completely forgotten.
Well, listen, and also he traded me a running back. I don't even remember his name. He was a good running back. He broke his leg like days after he traded him to me. So if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about my experience playing fantasy football, Hartz, what do you have to say? Who needs to show something next year?
Right. So I'd agree with the Hani. Everything you said's spot on. People are starting to question if he fell off a cliff. We don't know. Mm-hmm. But this season, I think he can try to show something, and we'll see. But who I really think needs to show something is Machilin. So Machilin talks a big game. He's a great fantasy player in general. Not even football, just fantasy player, right?
He's great at baseball.
Yeah, he makes the playoffs.
He's good at baseball. He's not great.
He's good at baseball.
But he can't win. He can't win. Yeah. He will never win this league. Oh, that's rough. That's tough.
That's the first big hot take of the day. I love that.
That is nice.
If you don't win this year, you'll probably never win.
He's had 7th a couple times too. Like he gets real close to the playoffs and then just,
He usually puts up a good season, does some good things, but he seems like a scared fantasy football player. Doesn't want to make moves. Kind of,
He's very trade averse. He is. I'm not really sure he's ever made a deal. You, on the other hand, you make at least one deal every single year, and you have 2 championships to show for it. The craziest part about it is you lose every single one. You lose every single trade you make, and it always works out still, somehow. It's unbelievable.
opinions, and it's knowing what you're doing and being confident in it and making the moves that are going to help your team. It doesn't necessarily have to win every trade, but your team has to get better.
You haven't won one though. You lose every one. It's crazy.
No, team gets better every.
All right. So with Hani, I think we have to be concerned that we might be poking a sleeping bear there. Okay. Hani is a force to be reckoned with and probably watches like more football than any of us, I would say.
But he watches the Lions. He roots for the Lions. So inherently losing is in his mind.
That's true, but he watches, I feel like, every team to a certain extent. It's weird. Like me, I usually just watch the Steelers, maybe like one other game if it's prime time. He kind of eats, lives, and breathes watching football. And Hartz, I was going to say Machilin as well. And one thing I wanted to note about Machilin, I feel like he's a guy that comes out of the gate really strong. Like he's a guy that starts out 3-0, 4-0, and then kind of just
doesn't
out.
Make a move. He gets complacent every time.
I'm so pumped for him to make a whole bunch of moves this year and just ruin his season. He's also very persuadable, so.
But yeah, I think Machilin's a smart guy, a smart football guy, and I look for him to prove something to us. If I had to pick a third, I would actually pick my division rival Noon. And you might think that's kind of a weird pick, but he's never won the league. And he's a guy who I feel like drafts pretty well. Sometimes unorthodox. Sometimes he has like 7 running backs, and he just can't give them away. He's a strange cerebral player, but I feel like he's a good player, and he can win this league. And I'm looking for him to make that jump next year.
Right. I think he does. I think he make a move to, kind of show what he's got, because he's usually like right in the middle there.
Mm-hmm. Never
really bad, never really good. So if he can make the jump, that'll be a big thing for him.
I'd like for him, of course, I'm in a league, I'm in a division as most of you probably watching this know with Gino, who's, I hate to say it, pretty much a perennial contender. He'll have a few down years, but he's usually up there. And then Noon. So I'd like to see Noon kind of not excel, but I like to see him, maybe make a little bit smarter roster construction choices and maybe push to the top of the league.
It sucks that one of you guys gets to make the playoffs, huh, Hartz?
Right, that's what I was going to say.
It's a weak division.
Well, I hate to say this. Gino, even though he did only win once, like back before internet was invented, he has been in the championship a couple times, I think, in the last 3 or 4 years, and you know what? He sticks around. He sticks around, and he's usually a playoff team.
He has won, right? So he has proven that he can do it. But yeah.
Well, your division has the 3rd most wins total, right? The number 1 division is the Ryan division. Hartz, Ghilani, Gotti with 4 combined championships. The Penn State division, Hart,
Mahar and Andrew.
They have 3 combined.
4.
Your division, 4?
Mahar.
Oh yeah, Mahar. That's right. So we'll give them second because they have 4, but we have all 3 of our members winning.
Right.
All 3 of our members have won, so that gives us the tiebreak, I think, for the best division.
Yeah, good logic.
3rd division is your division there, and then 4th is the nice guys. 0 wins for the nice guys.
Of course, that's Machilin, Ricky Ghilani, and Corey Elschlager, the nice guys.
Finishing last.
Yeah.
Personally, I think I'd rather be in Connor, Gino, and Noon's division than that bottom division. Even though we don't have the winners, I think that season in, season out, the competition down there is better than the competition in the Connor division.
I think so too. They have a higher top end. Like Rick is one of the best players that has never won. He's had 2 he was first seed this year. I think he had a 11-2 season one time. Guy's awesome, just can't put it together in the playoffs. Usually takes first round dip. But I think the low end of that other division over there is not too great either.
All right, I mean, you guys are kind of pissing me off, so let's move on to topic number 3. And also because I think that this is, you were kind of about to touch on this. Out of the No Squirrel Mafia, obviously, some of the teams that you've been talking about, some of the divisions you're talking about, really populated with No Squirrel Mafia members. Out of those 6 teams that have not won this league, who are you looking to make that leap and win a Squirrel next, whether it's in 2020 or beyond? Ghilani, why don't we start with you?
Do I have to pick somebody? I mean, if we're being honest, I'm not sure that any of them are going to win. We've had 9 years of this league now. We're going on the 10th year, and we've really seen what they have to offer, and it's not much. It leaves something to be desired. So if I can say nobody, that's what I'm going to go with.
No, you have to pick someone.
Then I'm going to pick Rick. I mentioned before he's come close a couple times, a few number 1 seeds, just like can't put it together in the playoffs. So I think he's probably been the closest. He's also great at other fantasy sports, pretty good baseball, hockey, contends in everything. So I think Rick's probably going to do it.
Does he have a championship loss? Like, was he ever in the championship?
I don't believe so.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
But I think he's been a number 1 seed.
A few times.
Right. But the thing
he has the best record in the league. He went 1 season only losing 2 games, which is the best record we've ever had.
Right. And until Mahar last season, first seed has never won. So
true.
That hurts him. Every time if he's putting up.
Wasn't Gaudy a first seed in 2018?
I don't think
when
so.
He won?
For some reason he wasn't. His team was incredible.
Yeah.
I know his team was incredible, but I don't know if he was number 1 seed.
Yeah, he was an overwhelming favorite. And just a note here, when Gaudy won and then when Mahar won, so back-to-back they won, 2 straight years of the previous year's last place finisher winning the league. And that, of course, was broken this past year because I got last place and then I didn't even make the playoffs in 2019.
We basically tied for last place last year.
Well,
there was a tie break.
Yeah, the tie break actually. You ended up getting last in the past year, I think. I don't know. I can't remember. I think it was me who got last.
Yeah, I think it was too.
But it was very.
So we almost had another worst to first, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah,
I was very close.
Who got last in 2020? I don't even remember. Or 2019.
It was me. I was towards the bottom. I won my first playoff game, and I didn't realize that still put me in contention to be in last place.
Wow.
So I stopped setting my lineup the last 2 weeks, and I lost twice, and came in last. So I mean, this is the lowest I've ever finished. I've actually only had 2 losing seasons of my 9. This was by far my worst season. So I'm really looking forward to coming back strong next year, and hopefully that worst to first trend picks back up.
But we also don't have a loser punishment, and we don't really pay attention that much to the loser bracket. So there is no real loser bracket that's set up. And if we had it set up the correct way, I actually don't think you would have been last year. I think it would have been noon if you played it out and if you win 1 game, you're done. That's how it really.
Listen,
win a game.
I have lobbied for years to have the loser bracket in a separate bracket, much like the winner's bracket is, and also have a punishment. Every time I bring a punishment forward, no one likes it, no one's into it, and look, we do have it. The loser bracket is set up weird on ESPN. I would like it if it was like the winner bracket where you win, you move on, face
Horses,
whoever
bottles.
else won. Horses, bottles. Cheers. So that's something we can talk about maybe implementing in the upcoming year. Hartz, who are you looking out of the No Squirrel Mafia to win the league next?
Yeah, so I do think that we should have a vote this year and try to implement something. It doesn't necessarily have to be a punishment, but there has to be something in place for just to determine last place. And even if it's just like last place doesn't, I don't know, get to pick your order or something, whatever it is in the draft, like just some little thing. It doesn't have to be like a punishment where you have to embarrass yourself, whatever. But I think there should be something for coming in last. If you come in last, that's bad.
100%. And this league has been around for too long to Yeah, you're totally right. I agree. We need some kind of punishment, and I believe that Connor agrees as well.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So there's 2 of the 3 commissioner votes, so we have to put something into place this year.
There we go. But besides the loser thing, I think if I were to pick one of the No Squirrel Mafia that was going to win, it would actually be Connor. So of the Mafia, Connor is the only one that has made the championship. All right, so he's done it. He's gotten there. Yeah, he had to get beaten by yours truly, but was he actually going to win? Did he actually have a chance to win against me? No, not really. So that's the problem. So if he gets there again, as long as it's not against me, I think Connor wins. He brings one home.
I have so much to say to that. I mean, I appreciate you saying me, but I lost to you by 1 point in 2015. I had one of the highest scoring teams of all time in this league. And what I do remember is that Tom Brady only scored 11 points in championship week. Just another reason to dislike Tom Terrific, really, if we're being honest.
He always blows it when it counts. I've had him a couple times, though I did win with Tom Brady as well. So.
Usually the Patriots are in good positions. So towards the end of the season,
you're absolutely right.
They're not really Tom Brady things where
he's really never been a great fantasy quarterback. A couple years maybe, but I mean, he's always better in real life than he is in fantasy. He's maybe top 10, but I don't know. I can remember maybe 2 or 3 seasons where he's been top 5, but other than that, he's average.
He was rarely number 1, but he's been a very good fantasy quarterback many years, especially when Gronk was in his prime too.
And usually very safe with the football.
The Randy Moss year was a good year.
Yeah. But he's like the complete opposite of Jameis Winston, who just turns over the ball all the time but scores lots of points. So you can't just base it off strictly NFL. Are they good at NFL?
What was Jameis last year though? Among quarterback rankings, do you guys remember?
I'm not sure exactly.
He was definitely top 10.
He was up there. He killed it for me. I would say one of the big reasons that I won.
I mean, he definitely had more turnovers than touchdowns.
He did, and you know what? The change from quarterback scoring from 4-point touchdown to 6-point touchdown made Jameis playable. If
that's true.
If we did not make that change, Hartz probably doesn't win the league.
Maybe not.
You're right.
But
Jameis Winston was the 5th quarterback last year, 294 points, more points than Patrick Mahomes.
So
That's insane.
Touchdowns as interceptions or turnovers?
I'm sorry?
Same amount of touchdowns as.
He had way more turnovers because he had a bunch of fumbles too.
Oh, okay.
He was like 33 and 31 and then like 14 fumbles, something like that.
Gotcha.
No, 33 and 30. Where am I looking here?
But either way, it was, took advantage of the scoring. He put points. He's a top 5 quarterback that I got. I think I might have either got him off the waiver wire or not.
You did, because I drafted him.
Right.
I drafted him, and I drafted Lamar Jackson, and Jameis threw like 6 interceptions week 1, and I dropped him.
Yep.
So, just goes to show.
Yep. Never know.
Boys, another topic I'd like to bring up here, and this one's always fun to talk about because I feel like we all think kind of similarly in this. But Hartz, why don't we start with you? You guys are both champions. You know what it takes to be a champion. There's a lot of things that you can do to become a champion. You can draft really well. You can play the waiver wire. You can trade well. You can, get a 1 seed and get a bye. You can get a 2 seed and get an easier path with, if things turn out that way. I mean, what to you guys as a champion is the most important trait to win this league, which I believe this league is the Big Ten East of fantasy leagues. This is the SEC West of fantasy. I mean, this is a stacked league with a bunch of really great teams.
We're way better than the Big Ten. Come on, the Big Ten is at best.
The Big Ten East has Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, and Penn State, and is one of the hardest divisions in the country. Hartz, why don't we start with you?
So as you were saying, right, there's a lot of different things you can do or have to do. So I don't think it's just one thing, you know. I don't think it's one most important thing. I think you have to, you don't have to draft well, but you don't have to have the best draft, but you have to draft well, okay? And then you have to be paying attention the entire season, and even if things start going, you know, a little bit like, I don't like my team, you can't give up. Because this season, I didn't like my team from the beginning. I will tell you right now, I hated my team. And I was looking to change things the entire time. But I couldn't find really a good trade to make, so I just paid attention to the waiver wire, started looking, picked up people. You know, I had Devonta Parker, who was a huge pickup. He was like halfway through the season, pickup, and he ended up being one of my best wide receivers. So it's really, you know, you just got to stick to your guns, trust your process, and, you know, try to make moves throughout the season. But if you can't, don't just make them just to make them. Make smart moves throughout the season. You'll be in good shape.
Ghilani?
I can't believe how much bullshit I just heard for the last couple minutes. I mean, there's only one thing that you need in fantasy football, and that's luck. It's luck. There's only one thing that matters, and it's luck. You consider the Devontae Parker a great pickup, but it was also pretty lucky that Patrick came back and started throwing the ball and
sat on the waiver wire for 3 weeks, putting up like 40+ points.
It all boils down to luck. You can draft wonderfully. And your top 3 picks can get hurt and miss half the season. James Conner, Tyreek Hill, and Adam Thielen were my top 3 picks last year, and all 3 of them spent half the season hurt, leaving games early. There's nothing you can do about that. It's a great draft. It looks great. Tyreek Hill was one of the best receivers 2 years ago. The problem is it was just unlucky that all 3 of those guys got injured.
He's injury prone, and
he's not.
Who? Tyreek?
Yeah, he's not injury prone.
He played hurt all last year.
But he played.
He played hurt.
He played, though. He plays injured, typically. Okay. How many games? And Tyreek Hill was the one that actually came back of the 3. James.
You're going to put all your trust in a guy that has been hurt all last year, right? As your number 1 wide receiver, you're going to put all your eggs into one basket that he's going to be fine.
No, I didn't put all my eggs into one basket. That's why I got Adam Thielen right behind him.
I'd say James Conner has proven to be more injury prone than. I mean, if you're going to pinpoint one of his top picks, I mean, James Conner was
in the season before. How many games did he miss?
Who?
I think he played almost the full season.
He was phenomenal. He was one of the best running backs in the league. He played the entire season. Last year, he missed like 6 games, and the ones he did play, he left in the first quarter and never came back. That's actually even worse. That's way worse.
That hurts. But if you don't have a better option to play than a Connor that is injured, how is that? Like,
it doesn't have anything to do with better options. If you don't have your first, second, and your third pick, no matter what, you're not going to win. There's no amount of drafting, waiver wire trading that you can do to win if your first 3 picks get hurt. This game is all about luck. Just the way.
And I would like to add, and injury luck is across any fantasy league that you play. Injury luck is super important and critical, and it changes the football. But even more so in football, I believe schedule-based luck. Of course, you can go off one week, and if the guy you're playing goes off too and you lose, that's just bad luck. Or conversely, you can score 70 points and the guy you're playing had a stinker. And I mean, we've seen many times teams sneak into the playoffs based on scheduling luck, or even advance in the playoffs because of scheduling luck. Just how the seedings went, and I feel like that plays a major factor in how you can win this league. So it's not just, I hope my players don't get hurt, I hope they live up to performances. It's, man, who are you playing? I mean, you only have to score better than the person you're playing, but that can be a downside too.
Tyreek Hill played 16, 15, and 16 games before last year. Injury prone.
Hurt.
My ass.
Hurt, though. He was hurt a lot. Played hurt. So
Okay, 2 seasons ago he had 1,400, almost 1,500 yards and 12 touchdowns.
what do you have this year?
860 yards and 7 touchdowns.
Yeah. All right. So for
The year before, 1,183 yards and 7 touchdowns. So he had his worst season last year.
he played half the games he played those years.
He played 12 last year. He played in 12. He left like 2 or 3 early.
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna look to get Tyreek
Adam
Hill on the bounce back
Adam
here.
Thielen played and started every single game.
Thielen,
The 2 seasons prior to this last year, he played every single game. 16 games, 2 seasons in a row.
I want to say his injury was a pretty freak injury too.
Last year he played 10 games and he left 2 early.
Didn't he run into a wall at the end of a touchdown catch or something crazy?
It was something ridiculous. Yeah, it was.
That one I'll give you. I can't say anything about that one, but I don't know. I just think that there's ways to minimize needing luck, right? So there's ways to, set your line up so you don't have to get lucky.
Okay, well, what about the fact that so Ben Roethlisberger was my quarterback, James Conner was my running back, and Ben Roethlisberger tore his shoulder, his worst career injury in the first game. So not only do I lose my quarterback, I also lose my starting running back's entire offense. Luck goes into it.
It does. I didn't say it doesn't go into it. I'm just saying that there's ways to mitigate that luck, and there's also ways to make your own luck.
So what would you have done in that situation where your quarterback, your running back, your 2 receivers get hurt at the beginning of the season, all at the beginning of the season too? What would you do?
I wouldn't have drafted Big Ben. He would not have been my quarterback.
My other quarterback was Tom Brady. I drafted Tom Brady right after Tom Brady was serviceable.
So you got 2 old washed up quarterbacks with your 2 quarterback picks, probably earlier than they should have been picked.
No, way late, like 10th, 11th round.
So earlier than they should have been picked. So, but the thing is, that you relied on 2 older guys as your quarterbacks, and plus you stacked that with James Conner as the running back. And if Big Ben goes down, who's an older guy, the Steelers offense is done.
And if Big Ben and James Conner had the season they had before, I win the league. Ben Roethlisberger the season before had 5,100 yards and 36 touchdowns. James Conner had 973 yards, 12 touchdowns, just running the ball. He also had an additional 500 yards receiving as well.
What did Big Ben? What quarterback was Big Ben the year before last?
I think number 1. He was either number 1 or number 2. He was right at the top. Mahar had him and won the league. He was one of the top quarterbacks in the league. 5,100 yards and 36 touchdowns.
Okay. Well,
to be fair, he also had Patrick Mahomes. I think Ben was on his bench most of the year.
I think he played Ben at the end.
I don't know. But actually, I don't even know what I was going to say there.
Let's move on.
Look,
I'm done talking about this.
Yeah, we're running just about at time, boys.
That was good.
One thing I wanted to say, like I said in the beginning, we are going to be doing Brosuv Fantasy Football Podcast in season. We're going to publish them every Thursday for Thursday Night Football, and we'll also be recapping the waiver wire and all that stuff. So we'll be recording them on Wednesday, publishing them on Thursday. As far as the off season, who knows? I'm not sure we've really talked about what we're going to do, but we're going to at least be coming to you on a semi stable basis. Who knows? We'll see. So stay tuned. I wanted to give you guys both a chance to say some parting words. Maybe we'll get a guest on next time we talk to get it a little spicier. But any parting words from you guys?
Really wasn't ready to part yet, man. This thing flew by, huh?
Yeah, we're running at 45 minutes.
Yeah. I guess that's pretty decent.
We don't want to say everything we can say whenever training camp's probably not even going to start on time, and we're not going to have much to talk about.
Yeah, we'll save some of the discussion about punishment for the when we bring on some people and some role changes and that kind of stuff for the next ones too. But
yep.
Yeah. But first, I just want to thank Connor for putting this all together. He wrote that little intro song, which is pretty sick. Like you said, we're going to try to put this together every week, do it a weekly thing, maybe a high points, low points, get to duke it out to figure out who gets on this podcast. But But yeah, so had a great time and appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Hopefully it works this time. We'll see.
That's right.
But I think we're doing good. Yeah, I had fun. I'm looking forward to the weekly edition. I definitely think that in season we need to have one person come on the show, either high points or low points, and the other one has to write the note. They can duke it out to decide who does what. But I think that it's going to be fun to have
Right.
either the high or the low point winner during the season. We'll get some good guests on here. Maybe we'll get lucky and get Rod on here. I don't know if anybody's been in communication. I know he's
Yep.
hunkered down right now in Napa Valley, taking this quarantine, just living the dream out there. I saw him posting a video with him and a bottle of wine and his chickens the other day, and it just looked magical. So yeah, happy to be here. Really glad that we got to do this. Looking forward to the next one. See yous later.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, shout outs to Rod Klingsmith. He is the reporter, Brosuv Fantasy Football League reporter. I'd call him a bit of a loose cannon, and follow him on Twitter. I think it's at BFFL Fantasy, or look up Rod Klingsmith. I mean, honestly, the guy lives, breathes BFFL football, and also sometimes he talks music, sometimes he often talks wine, and sometimes he talks about his ex-wife as well. So definitely check out Rod on Twitter.
Yep.
Hey, boys, I can't say how fun this has been, and we'll talk again soon. Thanks so much.
All right.
See you later, guys. Enjoy your quarantine.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.